Welcome to Keep It Humane, the podcast, where we dive deep into topics surrounding kindness, compassion, and creating a more humane world, whether it's in our communities, in the workplace, or in the world of animal control and shelters. With our hosts,
Ashley Bishop.
And Ashley Bishop.
And I'm Daniel Ettinger. This show is sponsored by Tomahawk Live Trap. Check them out, livetrap.com. Well, it's another episode of Keep It Humane with your hosts.
Texas Bishop.
And me. I guess we did that part in the canned opening. But the other bishop, the Wisconsin bishop, people don't know that. She's here one week, she's gone the other. She has a rotating shift as a mother. So one week she's the mother of her children, and the next week she's the mother of 600 head of cattle. So we'll hope to see her back here in a couple weeks. I hope she listens to this, and then next time she comes on the show, she can correct me. Anyway, Tomahawk Live Trap is celebrating its 100th year of business. That's right, 100 years right now in 2025. They are a family-owned, operated business who work with humane professionals around the world to produce the safest and most effective animal handling equipment available. You can save up to 10% on their products by using discount code Keep It Humane. That's Keep It Humane, all uppercase letters with no spacing. You can visit them at livetrap.com. or call them at 800-272-8727, 272-8727. Don't forget to check out keepithumane.com and all of our socials on the socials. That's Keep It Humane anywhere you do the social media stuff. Bishop, Texas Bishop, how are things? Is it warming up down there in Texas?
No, it's awful. It's like it's raining and then it's cold and it's rainy and cold. I'm tired of it. Texas needs to quit it. Mother Nature's stop. We still been busy. I will say, a lot of times when cold weather comes, we'll slow down a little bit. Nope, we busy with all the things. Seems like our cat season is coming up right now, and that's slowly starting to affect us. We got 3 good cases going on right now. We're going in for an admin warrant next week, so
Love it. Those are my favorites.
so we'll see how that goes, and we just got a couple of other big things going on right now. So we'll see. We're being kept busy. Shouts out to our ACOs. They are doing great. They're doing phenomenal. Again, I can't thank our assistant supervisor enough. She's amazing. I love her to death. I wouldn't be able to do this job without her. She's about to hit, I think this week, her 18th, 19th year with the department.
Wow.
I'm so lucky to have her. I can't say it enough. She's amazing at what she does, and I get learned a lot because, all the things that happen and everything that changes. She's got so much experience and so active in our community. The community knows her very well because she's been here so long and she's kind of been through the transition with the department. So, yeah, how are things going with you?
I've given up on life.
Shut up.
I'm for real, man. I was gonna wait till the end to talk about how I can't do it anymore. And you know where I'm going with this. Like this whole no kill versus kill versus this shelter shit. I'm just gonna say it has gotten so political and so defeated. Is that the word defeating? I just can't do it.
Mhm.
So if you don't know, you can go to keepithumane.com/blog. And I wrote a blogio.
Mhm.
I don't know what the hell I'm saying. I have like 3 hours of sleep right now, people. Um, about terminology. And we talk about terminology all the time on this program about how that language is disruptive, divisive, intrusive, mean. And it proved my point when I posted it. I even took it off the LinkedIn. I was like, I just don't want it up there anymore. I feel like it's causing too much. It felt like it was Kendrick and Drake for a second. Like there was a rap battle going on between languages. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? I didn't perform in the Super Bowl. Can we stop? And what I realize is like it's delusional. And I know you're listening because you listen to every program, but you're unwilling to come on. I'm not going to say your name, even though I could because you've made statements and there's emails. So it's not slanderous. It's just the facts. And the vision or the idea that us in the industry are the ones who confuse the language just blows me away. That there is zero accountability for the community that actually is the one that is confused. And I'll give a few examples of that. When teaching a class a few months ago in San Antonio, Texas, to a bunch of awesome social workers, people that are trying to help their communities by making sure their humans are safe. And in addition to that, understanding that link between animal abuse and violence towards humans, they were at this class. And the first question that was asked by somebody that was not in our industry was, are there any kill shelters left in the United States? If that doesn't say that our community is confused and that I am not muddying the waters, I don't know what else to tell you. How about that school I went to pick up a French bulldog, and one of the teachers that was waiting for me, the first thing out of that teacher's mouth was, "Are you going to kill it?" So my friend, I actually still would consider this person a friend if they want to come on the show and talk about it or have a conversation offline. It is not us. We are not the ones that are confusing the terminology. We are the ones that are the front lines that have to hear the terminology day in and day out. And we're frustrated by it. And then you get a group coming out and denouncing people using the term kill shelters, saying that that's mean and we shouldn't use it, and we're partnering with another major agency to stop it. But they're still using the no kill terminology. Make it make sense, Bishop.
It doesn't. And I don't disagree. It was really frustrating reading the back and forth because, and and then people wonder why specifically boots on the ground, us, not only animal control, but the shelter workers, how how defeating it is, how much it takes for us to go into work every day knowing that the battle is a gajillion feet high every single day because people don't understand. And I don't get the disconnect in our, and we talked about this, I think, last episode. I don't get the disconnect that is happening right now in animal welfare amongst us all. I just don't understand how we can't get on the same playing field. I'm in an area where I am considered the kill shelter, and that's just, we are the municipal shelter, and that is what we're called in our industry, and in our area. And it hurts our staff. It really hurts our staff. Reading the comments, reading the reviews, after all the hard work that they put in, I am full right now. I am full, full, full. I took in a seizure of 11 dogs a couple weeks ago. Guess what? I still have those 10 dogs right now. 11 dogs.
Mm-hmm.
I still have them. They're sitting there,
Mm-hmm.
and uh, I just, I don't know. It's just so disheartening to see people say that we're the ones getting it confused, that, it's the boots on the ground that are getting the language confused. No, we get it every day. I can't tell you how many calls we take, how many times our officers in the field get, well, are you going to just take it and kill it?
Mm-hmm.
Well, if I leave this here, can I just take it and kill it? I mean, I have a great example. Somebody here recently lied, and to get an animal into the other facility in our area because, again, they just think that they're going to drop it off, and as soon as they drop it off, it's going into that back room.
It's unbelievable. And I mean this sincerely. I am I'm not going to stop advocating for what I feel is right in the aspects of the best for our community and the animals. Um, but I think I'm done just, and maybe that's what they want. They don't want loud voices. So I think I'm just done coming out on my own and making statements that are unprovoked, like writing blogs or I don't even know, man, maybe booking guests that want to talk about, I don't know what to do. I'm like at a crossroads because I feel like anything I do, it just gets chastised and it's not helping. Like I want to help. I want to help people, help animals, and this is not helping. It's furthering that divide, and it's disgusting. These people, it's just disgusting. And I think if we can find a way to coexist and know that, yeah, the language is not great. And sure, are there some shelters out in the world that, out even in the United States, that may euthanize animals that in other shelters wouldn't get euthanized, but may live there for 397 days? And when we get our guest here queued up and we can talk about her experiences in animal welfare, especially um, from her viewpoint and what she's seen. Like some of these dogs, are they living their best life? We tried to adopt the five freedoms that was intended for Wisconsin Bishop's profession, which is cattle, It was the Animal Welfare Act. It was
It's just gonna
it was intended for livestock, for the food that we eat. And then don't even get me started with these no-kill advocates that are beef eating, chicken eating, fish eating people that want to sit here and talk about no-kill, but then are going to eat a ham sandwich for lunch. Just shut up. Like you're so hypocritical. I don't want to hear it anymore. So I'm getting off my chest. I don't know if you'll ever see another blog about no-kill from me. I will stand firm on my belief that it doesn't work. The terminology doesn't work, but it sucks because you have this political system now in our profession where you have, and I don't want to like label one side or another as Democrat, Republican, Independent, but that's what it feels like. If you're not wearing the orange, that's kind of funny actually, because the one person's skin is real orange. Anyway, but if you're not wearing the orange, then you're not with them. And then, but then you're automatically on the other side. But if you talk negatively, not even negatively, I don't feel like my blog was negative. I didn't really call anybody out in the blog. I just said the words don't mean what they were making them seem like they mean. Like kill is a very barbaric and vicious word if you look at the history. And when we had our guest on a few weeks ago, she talked about how it was perceived in the Hispanic culture and in Spanish language. Like when they used that terminology, it was very different than how we use it in our language. So I've given up. No more just free willy. That's not the word I want to use either. Jeez. No more no kill, uh, just out the gate type of stuff. I'm going to just kind of sit back in the shadows, still stand for what I believe in, but I'm not going to be as assertive as I once was. So I'm going to euthanize my no kill behaviors.
it's so
Okay, let's introduce our guest. Hopefully, you're okay still coming on after all that. Uh, Cara Achterberg, she's the author and co-founder of Who Will Let the Dogs Out, this awesome book that she wrote recently. And Cara, thanks for staying with the show with that opening. I wasn't ready for it this morning, but it just came out naturally.
Hey, I'm glad to be here, and that's, I've heard that from other ACOs too, not just out where you are. The no-kill language is it is very divisive.
Can we jump in? So, with your book, like I'll be honest, I got through a few chapters. And I have a little bit more to go. I actually have a great photo of it at the beach, and I want to continue to read it at the beach. By the way, Texas Bishop, it'll be in the 70s all day or all week this week, so I'll probably be at the beach a few times with this book.
good for you.
Just saying. But can you let our listeners know like who you are, what your background is, and what made you get into this book? Like what influenced you to start writing?
Sure. Well, I've been a writer for a long time, and about 10 years ago, I ended up fostering dogs because I lost a dog after 18 years and somehow learned without wanting to all about what was going on in our shelters. Um, and I was kind of stunned. The first time I went to the shelters, I had fostered over 100 dogs. I'd been doing it for 5 years, and I went to a shelter in North Carolina thinking it would just be fun to like bring donations and see the places where my dogs came from. And I was stunned by the conditions and what was going on, but I was really ashamed of the fact that I didn't know what was going on and that I was that deep in and, acting like I was doing all this great stuff. And I had no idea what was really happening in our shelters. And on that tour, I went to, I think, 13 shelters and then just started going back again and again. Brought a photographer friend because so few people read. And we tried to show what was going on. And our mission was really just to raise awareness because we thought people in this country don't realize what's really happening in our shelters. They only see one piece of it, especially those of us that were at the time I was living in Pennsylvania. Um, and then we eventually formalized that 5 years ago into an organization called Who Will Let the Dogs Out. And we have volunteers all over the country helping us. We continue to travel to shelters, primarily in the South. And our mission is to raise awareness and resources for those shelters to try to help them help themselves. We don't come in there saying, oh, we're here to fix it because we can't. They're going to have to fix it. Every community is going to have to solve the problem in their community.
Say it louder for the back, Kara.
So that's what we do. We continue to do, getting ready to leave tomorrow for another tour.
Mm, that's exciting.
it's interesting, I've gone through most of the book. I think I'm on the last chapter here, and what I find interesting is how you kind of place, how everybody's different and everybody's an individual, meaning by all the shelters. It's true because there are still a lot of things going on in our industry. There's a lot of shelters who are doing a lot of weird things and practices and things like that. I've been there, done that. I've seen some scary things in our industry. I've heard some scary things, but I appreciate that you don't loop us all into one because that's not the case. Every community, every shelter is different. We can't just say that all municipal shelters are bad. We cannot say that all municipal shelters are kill shelters because everybody's doing everything so differently, which is actually kind of hurting us in the long run because we all kind of need to be on the same playing field and we're all just doing everything um, you know, how we feel it needs to be done, but also catering to the communities as best we can.
Right. Right. They're all very, very different. And, one dog, and like you mentioned it earlier, that, a dog in one area may be there for a long, 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 long time and ultimately be euthanized. Or in another area, it might be snapped up in a week. And that's frustrating to me. I feel like it's so unfair. Like the worst thing for some dogs is just to be born in, one of these little back countries, counties in Mississippi because there's so few shelters there,
Sure.
municipal shelters there. And then there's lots of little rescues there. You just never know. It's not consistent. And that is something that needs to change in this country is it shouldn't matter where you are, you should have animal services. But we travel to a lot of counties that don't have it and don't see the need for it. And their solution is either, if they're lucky, a little nonprofit rescue pops up, or they call the police to shoot the dog. And that literally is happening in our country. And I was shocked by that that's still going on. But when you look at it from the standpoint of if you have no animal services and you have an animal that is causing a problem for whatever reason, and you call the police, what are they going to do with that animal? They don't have an option if they don't have a municipal shelter. So the option in many places is to shoot it.
Yeah, and I think it's crazy because we're surrounded by counties that don't have animal services. So guess what? When people call about animal issues in that area, guess what? Those agencies tell them, well, go take it to the Bryan Animal Shelter or wherever, and it's disheartening because I mean, we can only do so much for with even within our own community, and now we're taking on the burden of another community because they simply just don't want to see that it's a an asset to have animal services as a department.
You know how I feel about our profession. I think and we're seeing that actually Texas legislation right now is trying to push for animal services to be considered first responders. FirstNet, who's a derivative of AT&T, if you have cell phone coverage, does consider animal control officers as first responders, and you can get FirstNet coverage, which is supposed to give you better connection in moments of emergencies, et cetera, because you're expected to be there and to be able to provide for that community, right? And so there is this, there's a there is a need, depending on, I mean, it just depends on the size of your community. There could, I could even see a world where, I mean, I grew up in a world where I lived in places where they had volunteer firefighters. Like we could have volunteer ACOs or something like that. Or I just think that there is a huge need for us to continue to build on our profession, apply some consistencies across the board, and focus on ways to continue to improve. And there is no, that's the thing about this industry, and I think that's why we're in the peril that we are, and why I feel so strongly about what I feel about is there are no governing bodies in this profession. There is no one to say that animal shelters should operate this way. There are ideas out there, there are arbitrary numbers out there, there are things that um, people feel are the right way, but there is no one saying that this is actually a peer-reviewed study that shows, yes, like this is actually why we should operate this way. It's just, it sounds good. We ran with it. Like the same thing, like we ran with applying the five freedoms to shelter animals when it was never intended for that. That wasn't the design for that. That was for our livestock, right? Our food producing animals. And they were like, well, or our lab animals. And then they were like, oh, we could apply that to the shelter. Like I don't know what it takes. I think a lot of people are busy in their own worlds doing things, but we need to take a step back, get some of our leaders together in maybe some sort of retreat where they're doing a lot of soul searching, but also a lot of decisions on how to make our industry united versus ununited. Because as you look across the country, and I've been to some of those places too, maybe not at the frequency of you, Kara, but trust me, I know like there are ACOs out there that still shoot dogs. ACOs. Like we're talking animal control officers and they're still shooting dogs. Like what are we talking about? So it's tough. Talk to me about the book starts and I think part of and I mean this actually in a very sincere way. It's hard to read the book because it's so close to my work that I feel like I don't get a day off when I'm in the book. Right. When I'm reading the book, I'm like, I just want a little bit of a break for work. And I think that's what's taken me a little bit longer than normal. Um, so it's well written in that aspect because it really gives you that insight into the world. Take me into the beginning where it when I started in this profession, there was a big thing that old Grumpy Joe. I'll just call him Old Grumpy Joe. Nice guy though. He's old Grumpy Joe. Just imagine ACO old Grumpy Joe. Nice. He is a nice guy. But man, the first thing was like, we have these bunny huggers and what do you call them? These activists, these animal activists that'll just ruin your life. And so when I start reading the book, it kind of starts out that's kind of how you, and I don't mean this again disrespectfully, but you were that rescuer. You were that person pulling animals and trying your best to get them out of those harmful situations or find a better life for them. Is that true? Do you say do you feel that you are an animal advocate, a rescue advocate? How would you describe that?
Um, I've definitely evolved. I think in the beginning, I didn't know what was really happening. I just thought, I'm going to help this, I'm doing this great thing. I'm helping this animal. I was only on the receiving end. And so once I dug a little deeper and got into it more, um, initially when we were going down there, we kept saying, oh, we're down here to help dogs. We're out here down here to help dogs. But the more I did it, the more people I met. I feel more like I'm in it to help the people in the shelters in these rescues because it breaks my heart to see them give up so much of themselves trying to help animals that other people have abandoned, have forgotten, aren't doing their part. And so I feel like I am an advocate, but I'm more an advocate for the people trying to fix the situation. I do care about them. I love dogs. I've got, a bunch of them and continue to foster for my local people and occasionally freelance foster for weird situations. But I am in the work that we do, I am way more on the side of let's fix this so these people aren't giving up so much and hurting so badly, um, trying to solve the problem themselves. I mean, we go to places where there's like one ACO in charge of everything, run every call, took care of every animal. They're responsible for everything. There's just one ACO. We're doing the two stops, I think, on this tour we're about to go on, where that is the case. And she said to me, she said, I haven't had a day off in 3 years except when I had COVID. And that's 7 days a week.
It's
And
not
she's
uncommon
like,
though. I know
if I
so
don't come
many
in, they don't
ACOs
get
that
fed.
are maxed out on their time
Oh
or
yeah.
shelter workers that are maxed out. It's crazy.
Oh
Yeah, well, they're
yeah.
not paid for their time. She's not paid for the amount of hours that she works, but she won't let those animals not be fed on the weekend, which apparently the municipality will.
That's crazy. This is my Great American Shelter dog.
Mm.
I have mine too. Come here, Great American
Cute.
Shelter Dog. He's big.
Hey,
He's a big.
my street dog. Yeah.
Oh man.
He's a stupid guy, but we love him.
No.
Aw,
No.
Okay.
he's
All right.
gorgeous. He's gorgeous.
So with this
Yeah.
next tour coming up,
Hmm.
is the goal to are we gonna be like writing a second book to this? Is this more of a way to find opportunities to help? Like what's the goal with this next tour coming up?
Well, we've now made over 150 visits to shelters and rescues, and we're doing about 13 or 14 on this, and it seems like we pick them up on our way. People reach out while we're out there. The goal is to go into each shelter to learn their story and to share their story through, we put out a press release, so a lot of times local press will come, which is really great when that happens because too often the locals don't even know they have a shelter or what's happening at that shelter or that they could do anything to help that shelter. So our goal is to tell their story and share how people can help, whether you're local, whether you're further. I mean, we'll share what they need, their Amazon wish list, stuff like that, because, you can't just send money to municipal shelters, but you can send stuff. And so sometimes that's helpful. We also we talk to them about, what they're doing, what's working, what's going great. So if there's something we can share that help other shelters, we'll put that in our resource guide. We have a resource guide on our website that has like hundreds and hundreds of ideas. Every time we hear of a good idea having anything to do with like fundraising or volunteers or protocol, it doesn't matter what it is. If it's working and it's helping, we're going to put it up there so others can copy it. So we're always looking for that. And then when we leave, we will return to them via email, a kind of like a little report. Just here's some ideas. Here's some things that we've seen other shelters do that might work for you. I never presume to come in there and in 3 or 4 hours that we spend with them know what they should do. That's going to be the right answer. But I can give them ideas of other similar situations because we've seen so many. We have such a unique viewpoint. And someone said that to me recently. They're like, there's not anybody else going in and doing this, going in there as just nobody with an agenda, just going in there to learn their story and tell it, and to have been into so many different variations of a shelter, um, all over the place. So our hope is that we are going to be able to give them some ideas, that we're going to give them some support. We bring donations, we bring stuff that's donated. We ask them ahead of time what they need. I mean, we bring dewormers and vaccines and flea tick treatments and toys and tough chewer stuff and anything that's a kind of a higher value stuff that's not going to necessarily be in their budget for a small municipal shelter. So we bring that kind of stuff, and hopefully it's shining a light on them. And going forward, though, we continue to follow them. We'll have a volunteer assigned as their shelter liaison. They basically, as I tell the shelter liaisons, you stalk that shelter, you pay attention to everything they're doing. That way, they let us know if something happens, something big that we can help with, or if they've done something really great that we can share. We have a small Instagram program that is funded through the ASPCA, and we give grants of resources. So not money, we don't hand out checks, but we also don't have an application process. There's no big lengthy, it's a frustration of mine that so many of these small places don't get the grant money because they don't have anyone who can write the grants. Sometimes they don't have records. We gave a shelter a computer and a printer this year because so that they could try to get their records out of the notebooks and into a computer so that they could qualify for some of the resources and grants out there. So we have our own little program. We're trying to grow it. It's not huge, but we are able to give things that are value between like $250 and a couple $1,000. We've given a lot of corona beds, I feel like, but we've given other things. So once we have this relationship with a shelter, we continue. I'm still available. I hear from shelter directors and ACOs all the time when they have a question or if they need something, and we've been able to meet those needs. So hopefully we become a resource for them. And also we shine a light on what they do so that people see that that's going on. And then later on down the road, we will post about them on our blog. You can go on our website and there's a little interactive map. It's really cute. If you click on it, any of our shelters that we visited, it'll take you to the blog post where we wrote about them and it tells you more about them. So our hope is we continue to be a resource for them, but we also give them a little shot in the arm, a little like, you're doing a great job and we're here to help message. And sometimes, and I say that a lot to people, sometimes that's the biggest thing we bring is a little hope, a little support. It's us saying, we see you, we value what you're doing, you're heroes in our eyes, and what can we do to help? And that's kind of our message.
Yes, everybody go check out their website, whowillletthedogs.org. It is great. There are so many things. It's just packed full of stuff. So if you are a shelter who kind of doesn't know where to go and you're kind of scared to reach out, because we all know there are organizations that try to come in and push down the doors and say, you need to do this, and this is not
What?
going to work for your
Wait,
community.
there's people out there that do that?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And so, it's great. What a great thing to do, Kara. And, bringing hope to because a lot of people don't think about that, the people who are actually working the shelters, the hard labor that goes through every single day, cleaning kennels, taking care of animals, giving out medication. I mean, it's a lot. And kudos to you and your team for seeing that, because I feel like while the whole industry as a whole, between animal control and shelter workers, I feel like a big piece of what gets, you know, looked over are, boots on the ground inside the facility, you know, um, where a lot of the burnout tends to happen because they're getting inundated from all areas, whether it's social media, the community, the agencies they partner with for animal control. I mean, it can be a lot. So where do you see the industry in about 5 to 10 years, Kara? I always love to ask this question of everybody. Where do you see us in 5 to 10 years? We're at the end of the big campaign of No Kill 2025. I highly doubt we're going to reach that.
Oh, we'll
Um, I,
reach it. Look, everything's arbitrary. I know I said I was going to do this, but we'll reach it. It'll happen. It's arbitrary. Make the numbers work. It's fine. Numbers don't matter. Like nothing matters anymore. It's fine. Sorry to interrupt your question. We're going to be in the same fucking place that we are in 5 years that we are right now. I'm just going to put it that way. Sorry, you go.
No, I don't disagree. I think a lot of me, I see a lot of it glass half empty. I've been doing this for so long. I come from an area that is hard ridden. I'm originally from deep South Texas in the Rio Grande Valley, where the problem is just astronomical. And things haven't changed since I've left. I've been gone almost 16 years now, and not a lot has changed. Um, so, it's hard for me working, municipals to see the light at the end of the tunnel, especially when you're trying so hard. We have so many programs in our own shelter. We give out free spay and neuters. We do free microchips, free rabies vaccines for our communities. And it just seems like there's no end in sight.
No, I'm sure that's possible. That's one potential thing, is that it will be the same in 5 years, but I don't think it has to be, and I think that there are signs of hope. Um, I'm frustrated also with the fact that the national organizations have spent billions and haven't made, to my mind, significant progress in the places that we go. And but we've seen some really cool signs of hope in what we did. We did this thing in the fall. I got invited by a city councilwoman in Radcliffe, Kentucky, which is outside of Louisville. And she was really frustrated with the managed intake policies of the municipal shelter there. And she was ran a rescue and a boarding operation. And she she didn't know what to do with all this anger she had. And so she reached out to me and she said, I want to take a page out of your book and look at this from um, how can I take this energy and do something good with it? How can I find something instead of just bashing the shelter publicly, which is what she wanted to do? She said, what else could I do? And so she said, I want to pull everybody together, everybody in this community, whether they are a rescue, a shelter, a transporter, a veterinarian, an advocate, a government official, whatever, to talk about what can we do in this community, this right here. She said, would you come? So she called it Stronger Together. It was a retreat for people. It was just a one day, it was free. So we came, and it was funny because like a couple days before, I want to say maybe it was a week, she said, I can get everybody in the room. And she even had the Secretary of State coming and a bunch of, in Kentucky, it's the judge executive and the fiscal court that's overseeing of all the shelters. So she had some judge execs and some fiscal court people. She said, I can get them all in the same room, but I don't know what to do with them. So I went and tried to facilitate it as best I could so that she could participate. We had about 75 people show up. And the first thing I did was say to them, "Hey, I know you guys all have heard you were doing the hardest job, and I know you could tell each other the worst stories, and the worst thing next you can tell you a worst story. But we're not going to do that. We're going to focus on what we can do together to fix this. We're going to stay focused on solutions. I'm going to call timeout if we start going down that lane." Everybody agreed. So we go around, and they're all introducing themselves, just who they are, what they represent and why they came. And I'm telling you, the energy in that room was amazing. I mean, there were tears. There were so many people that just said, I'm so overwhelmed. I've just to be in a room with other people that get it, other people that are in this situation. And it was powerful. And it was a really cool day of just connecting and instead of competing for resources, talking about how can we share resources, how can we work together. There were some great ideas that came out of it. My favorite was this one woman. They were both municipal shelters. They were about 3 hours apart, I want to say. And she said, "Hey, if I had a dog, if I have a dog that's been sitting here like 3 or 4 months, no interest. It's a good dog, but it's been here 3 or 4 months. It's way past its stray hold." And she said, "And you've got one also. Same situation. What if we swap dogs? Maybe in a new setting." And I thought that's a brilliant idea. And those are the kind of ideas that the only people who are going to have them are the people in it, the people who are deep in it doing it, not the whoever wonderful great idea person that's at whatever university or wherever. It's the people that are out there doing it. And it was just super cool to see it happen, see them share ideas and resources and hear, their Secretary of State actually said, pick up the phone and call me. I don't know this stuff is happening. I wouldn't have any idea unless you call me. And so did the judge execs. And it was really really powerful. And so we're hoping to take that and do it again, use the Stronger Together model in other areas, regional areas, so that they can work together. And I think that's how it gets fixed. It's when the community understands what's going on and they understand that they have the power to help. I mean, nobody wants dogs to suffer and die. Nobody does, right? But nobody knows what to do about it. And I think if they could see that they are a part of it, and if we could get our communities involved and engaged in our shelters, I think we can change it. I also think regional shelters are something that should be in place instead of having these one little teeny tiny shelter in every single municipality. That's crazy. Um, Regionals make way more sense. So that's another thing that I think could help turn the corner. So I'm hopeful. I really am. I don't want to keep doing this. I tell this to my board and others all the time. Like my goal is that in 10 years, I'm not doing this. Nobody needs me to be raising awareness because everybody knows what's going on. I don't want to be doing this forever. And that's frustration too with the big organizations. Like they should be working to work themselves out of a job. That should be the goal. That should be their ultimate mission. And I don't see that happening.
I want to go back to something and why I said what I said so vulgarly. The reason why, and I know I'm on one today, and Kara, I appreciate your patience, and hopefully it's not making you too uncomfortable. We don't know each other other than a few emails and a few minutes, so sometimes I lose sight of how comfortable I am just in general. But the reason I don't think it will change is because we're not even there yet as far as the access to care where we need to be. Like we have that is the glaring issue in our industry that causes the main problems. So we don't have veterinary care. That puppy behind you is absolutely adorable, by
I
the way.
know.
If you're not watching on YouTube, you should,
I
because the
know.
puppy's like, "What's up, dude?" Um, the the foundation, like the groundwork, is not even there. And the one thing that I keep saying is, where are these national organizations? All of them, even if you just change your name, like all these big organizations, where are your scholarships for veterinary medicine? Like, why are we not pushing that in our communities? Like, hey, you can get scholarships by, with that 38 cents a day that you're helping animals, maybe that goes to a national scholarship fund for veterinarians or vet techs. Why aren't we encouraging more practices that are either low cost or no cost through some sort of subsidized funding through some of these national organizations? Like, that's why I feel that, look, the shelter, we're not going to fix it. The shelter world is not going to fix it because we don't have the resources. We are literally the last stop. We are the Hoover Dam before the water trickles out, or hopefully it never breaks. But like we are the dam. We're holding the things in because there's nowhere else for it to go. And so we can preach all these best practices and we do all these great things like field diversions and intake diversions and managed intake and high live release rates. But in the community, there's still 600 people that are breeding dogs in their backyard. Like, what are we doing? Or they're not getting care for their animals. And that's why I feel like in 5 years, and I know that question wasn't directed at me, so sorry for just hijacking this show. Um, I don't think there's going to be any change until we start to see changes where the change can actually be extremely impactful. Uh, we're not going to see change, and not that our shelters aren't impactful because we are, and we can change how compassionate we are inside. we can change our processes, we can change all those things, but it's not changing the outside, and that's where the problem exists.
Yeah, I think again for me it's we have to be honest with the communities. We are, we are very honest with what's going on in our facility. We let people know at the door, like, this is what we got going on. This is the resources that we have. It's the reality of what it is. But I also feel like right now, especially and after COVID, I feel there's a lot of romanticizing about what really is going on in the front lines. Like, a lot of the owner surrenders calls that we get are not because, they're moving away or whatever. They just simply don't want the animal anymore. It's just as simple as that. They peed in their house once, they pooped in their house once. The big one I'm seeing right now is I don't have enough time for it. That says to me, you're not wanting to put in the time. This dog is too hyperactive. It's destroyed your couch, your whatever. I mean, that is what I am seeing. I am not seeing, and this is just specific to my area. I can't speak for everybody's, but that is what I've seen, especially just here in my time in the industry. It is people who simply do not want to put in the work. And I feel like that's one of the biggest things that we need to target at all points in time is because the shelters have become the place where people can just dump dogs or animals in general because they don't want to do it anymore. And I think we really need to change that narrative in saying that these are live things, beings. These are live beings that you are willing to take care, that you willingly took into your home and need to take care of. Just because you simply don't want it anymore is not an excuse to go dump your animal off at an animal shelter. And I think that's a huge problem that, I personally don't know how to fix. How do you personally change somebody's mind and saying like, well, I can just go get this new puppy. There's a perfect example in your book, Kara, of, somebody dumping off a doodle and then that shelter's giving it a kitten. Excuse me? No, absolutely not. You are not about to own or surrender an animal at my facility and then take another one out for a ridiculous reason, and especially if that animal's in a bad shape. Absolutely not. I would no, absolutely not. But I think there's a huge misconception, and again, like I said, you know, romanticization of why these animals are coming in. I can't tell you how often I get a really, I've had a couple of cases here recently. Mom had dementia. She had 5 or 6 animals. They were able to rehome a few, but they had two left, that they could not rehome, so we went ahead and took those in. Like, those are situations that I can completely understand, but a lot of what we're seeing is not that. It is not a crisis situation. It is I don't want to take care of this thing anymore, take it off my hands.
Yeah, there needs to be humane education. There's a program in North Carolina, I mean, starting with the kids, because, those people that you're talking about, they're going to be hard to reach at this point. But starting with the kids, and there's a place, Moore County, North Carolina, and they literally in their public schools and actually the private and schools also, they have a required curriculum. I believe it's fourth grade, and it's like 8 weeks. It's like once a week for 8 weeks where they come in and they teach humane care and responsibility. They teach about spay, neuter. They teach about all of that. It culminates in this like festival at the end where the kids can bring their families and their pets, and they do like a microchip clinic and they do all this stuff. And it's the coolest thing, and it's going to be exciting. They've been doing this for it's been a little while. I want to say 4 or 5 years. So it's going to be exciting to see how that is impacting that community because yes, hopefully these kids are growing up with that, but the parents are inadvertently also getting educated at the same time because of that. So I think programs like that, it should be a life skill how to safely interact with the dog. Otherwise, you're in danger, especially with the number of strays nowadays, at least everywhere. So just like, where I grew up, we had to pass a swimming test to graduate from high school.
Hmm.
It should be the same thing. You
A
should have
life
to be able
skill.
to learn to safely interact and care for an animal. It's a life skill, it really is. And I would love to see something like that happening, a movement to push for that all over. I'd love to see one of these big organizations put their money behind something like that because that could change things.
Yeah.
Agreed. And I think with that, it all boils down, like for me, just resources. I don't even have enough staff to do what we're doing right
Hmm.
now.
Mhm.
And it all goes back to that, and I work for a great municipality. I can't kudos them enough. My chain of command is absolutely wonderful. But again, there's only so much they can do as well, and it's just, it's frustrating, Kara. It really is, and I was where Dan was a few weeks ago, you know, and it's just it's hard. It's hard to go in and try to tackle the world when it's just I feel like we're against so many things and we're fighting, you know, national organizations who are spreading this. It can't be done. It can't be done. It can't be done everywhere and as quickly as you're wanting to be. Every community is different. We're all individuals. Every community just it needs to one go at their own pace and you know, I don't know, it just gets exhausting, you know, it really does. And, you know, I've seen it in my staff and, you know, I see it in Dan, I've seen it in Ashley going through her stuff at her old job. And
Oof.
it's just frustrating. It's just so frustrating.
There's a lot of emotion behind the work that we do, and rightfully so, because as you said, Ashley, like we're dealing with sentient beings, live, living, loving creatures. We have a case right now that I can't get into, but I almost make it a point every single day to go spend 5, 10, 15 minutes with that dog just because I know what it's been through. And like that's the thing is like, man, and like I'll there was a point in my career when I was a field officer that I lost every single hope ever about like the idea of the shelter world because um, we are a landing ground for other people's problems. And it was like 5 dogs in a row that I impounded from pretty bad cruelty cases. And it was over a period of probably like maybe 3 to 5 months. And every single one of those dogs didn't pass a behavior evaluation. And I started to question the organization because I'm like, well, hello, like these dogs were subjected to abuse. What are we talking about? Of course, they're going to have some concerns, but couldn't we find foster programs or couldn't we find a rescue that's specialized in certain some of these behaviors? So I was all in on that aspect of like diversifying how we outcome animals. And it taught me a lot of like at the end of all of that was sometimes that still might be the best outcome for that animal is so it's not suffering, so it's not living in fear of a human's touch because it's been abused for so much. And so like I I think that grew in my frustration and my cynicism. And look, I'm not perfect. I'll never be perfect. I'll be the first one to admit my faults, as I did this morning. Like you know, I the blog I think is still deservingly going to stay on the website, but it doesn't need to be on social media. If people want to find it, they know where to find it. Like I don't need to start this internet trolling beef with a group of people that are, in my opinion, not necessarily willing to have a good conversation about it. They just want to make it their own narrative. And so, yeah, it is what it is. It's tough. We support the work that you're doing, Kara. I really thought this was cool in your book that your son is highly involved too. And do you want to talk a little bit about him and how he got involved and what his role will continue to be?
Yeah, he was, he grew up in our household where we were fostering dogs, so he saw it all firsthand. He's a little more sensitive. I want to say he's a really big guy, but he's also got a very, very soft heart. And so when he was in high school and I had just started going to the shelters and he was a budding photographer and he asked if he could go. And at first I said no, because I thought I don't want him to see this. How can he see this? But then I thought, well, he has a right to see it and he wants to. And I told him, we'll go and we'll cut and run if it gets to be too much. And we went to see some dog pounds in Western Tennessee and Middle Tennessee, I guess. And it was a lot. It was an awful lot. He did a fabulous job, but he wanted to use those pictures to raise awareness. So he built our first website and he helped name it Who Will Let the Dogs Out, hoping to use that photography to raise awareness. And he did. And, he's in college, actually out of college now, and he still helps. He's still technically on our board because he helped found it. And he still helps me out with, any kind of little technical problem that's going on. So he's still around and he still comes and helps me with the animals that I have here. In fact, he's visiting this weekend, spending a lot of time with this big pup here behind me. Because she's a lap dog, but she's a 65-pound lap dog, and he's the right size person for a lap dog like that.
What questions
Yeah.
do you have for us? I know we kind of jumped in and talked about a lot of the hard things today, but Kara, just because this is, you're kind of encompassing a lot of the stuff that we're doing, hearing from a lot of the people in our industry. I'm just curious. what you if you have any questions for us.
Every time I meet somebody in your role at the shelters, one of the first things I always ask is like, what made you get involved? And then why do you stay? Why? I mean, you guys are talking about how hard it is. It is really hard. I know it. I know it. I mean, I haven't done it obviously, but I have heard and I've talked to hundreds of animal control officers and shelter directors and I'm always curious about the kind of people that would continue to do this very, very hard job that, 99 point whatever percent of our population wouldn't ever do. Um, and doesn't even realize what you're doing. So my question would just be that, like, what made you get into this and why do you stay in it?
I'll let you go first, Dan. You've been doing it longer than me.
Mm. I'll just say that the short answer, and you can read my blog that talks about it a little bit. It's called No Kill, It's Euthanasia. That's the name of the blog. Like, anyway,
It's a good
um,
read.
I will say this though. Uh, I started as a volunteer because I just didn't have a true direction in life on what I wanted to do at that age, and I didn't know that volunteering would lead me into this profession. But what kind of set it up and what has continued to keep me there is we either have direct or indirect ways of changing lives forever for the better. And that'll never be lost on me. To watch somebody leave the shelter either with their dog that has been missing for 7 hours, 13 days, or adopt a new family member, to watch them walk out of there extremely excited, happy, playing with the dog or cat in the box, looking through the little holes, like just super duper excited to get in their car. Uh, just one time, that's the same. It's like doing heroin for the first time. Like you chase that high. Not that I've ever done heroin, just want to clarify that. I just speaking out of how they talk about it on the news. But like it's you chase that high, like this is great. Um, and the same thing goes because we're human and seeing somebody leave the parking lot and maybe they just brought a dog owner surrender or cat owner surrender for euthanasia and they're crushed and knowing you can be empathetic and caring and compassionate in those moments. That's why I fucking do this job is I love having that ability to be there for somebody in a time of need, and I didn't couldn't get that anywhere else, and so it's very warming and welcoming that we can do that.
Ooh, I kind of started similar to Dan. Ashley, Wisconsin Bishop, and I have very similar pathways. I started volunteering for the big shelter in my hometown, and seeing what it was like for everybody. The staff took to me pretty quick, and I took to the supervisor at that time pretty quick. I was probably there for 1 or 2 weeks, and then I was offered a part-time position, and I continued that through my undergrad career. I learned a lot. My supervisors at the time, shouts out Nellie and shouts out, well, uh, Deepong, my old supervisors. I mean, they had been doing it for such a long time, and I learned so much from them. And the problem is so massive in the Rio Grande Valley. I can't even just describe it. I've worked at Palm Valley. A lot of people know who Palm Valley Animal Society is. I worked there for a hot minute. And I've said it here before. And when I went with my old supervisor, I walked through that shelter and I was like, I don't know if I could do this. That shelter in particular was a tough walkthrough. It was a tough walkthrough, and it's no fault of the people that work there. It is just the massive amount of issues that they have in that area, socioeconomic, lack of humane education, culture is a big part of it too. But once I left the first shelter I was at, I wanted municipal shelter was where I was at. I could see how hard they were having it compared to, the humane societies a few hours away, just the difficulty of trying to help the community realize that we can only fix this problem together. So, I really wanted to go into veterinary school at some point, but I realized that I wouldn't use the surgery aspect and I thought it would be a waste of my time. So I went a different route and just, I got my master's in veterinary public health and epidemiology, which is right smack in the middle of what we're doing with public health and safety. Um, and I've just been doing it ever since. I'm going on my 17th year and, the struggle's real. I was out of the industry for probably a year or two while I was going through my master's program, and jumping in back into it was hard. Um, but why do I do it? I love it. I love the interaction with community. Right now, our team is just fabulous. We have a lot of, great people who do everything we possibly can. Our ACOs, our staff on the inside work really well together. If they need help, our inside staff goes out. And if we need help on the inside, ACOs are helping on the inside, helping us clean or whatever the case might be, dealing with customers and whatnot. Again, too, I don't know if I would still be in this industry if I didn't have the leadership that I have currently right now in the city I'm in. I will have to say that. Them realizing that we are not a business, excuse me, we are not a money-making department. And that is a huge key in municipal sheltering, in having leadership that understands that and understands that, you know, we can't create miracles overnight. And just their support, and the ideas that I have and what we can do to better the community. And it's just been, I don't know, it's been great where I'm at, and I plan to retire here, and we're hopefully getting a new facility soon, which opens up a new whole life for our facility and our community, and giving us the opportunity to open up more programs. But to be honest, why I stay, I can't really tell you, other than I love what I do. The interactions that we have with both the people and the animals, you know, I don't know. It's just it's great, especially here recently. We've been having a lot of interesting things happen. And I go out in the field and meet with these people, and just kind of understand where they're coming from. And I don't know. I really don't know why I do it. There's not a lot of people that last this long, like Dan or I or my assistant supervisor. Anything past 2 years is a long time for people in our industry. Um, but man, I love the job and I love the people in it. And I don't know. I don't know. I really don't know. Some days were hard. Yesterday was hard. We had a lot of injured animals that came through that unfortunately I had to make that tough decision. So that always sucks. But I don't know, Kara. I really don't know. I'm passionate about it. I love municipal work. We have such an uphill battle in our industry, specifically with municipalities, and I just want to change that aspect. We're not dog pounds anymore. We're not, dog catchers anymore. We don't do that. Yes, there are still agencies out there that operate like that, but a lot of times it's because resources. What else can you do when you don't have the support of your leadership, or even of your community? What else can you do? Not that it's inexcusable, but you know, I hope to change the rhetoric before my time.
That's a great answer. Kara, I hope you leave the show knowing that we're not all dejected. We're just it's
We're
just
just frustrated.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, because they're not like us. So, um, I mean, I'm just trying to keep it modern with my rap beefs. Um, anyway, we really appreciate people tuning in. Check out who will let the dogs out.org. You can
Hey
buy the
Phil.
book. You can buy the book wherever you find books,
There you go.
whether it's Amazon, the website, anywhere else we can tell them to find the book, Kara.
Those are the two places right now. Yep.
Cool, cool, cool. I will finish it, I promise. I'm going on a cruise soon, so it'll be with me there if I don't finish it beforehand. Um, again, I sometimes have to separate work life from home life, and I can't read books at my desk because that would look a little weird just posted up there. I know someone that may do that, but it's another story for another day. I really appreciate, again, your just dedication to this community of workers, the animals that we have to care for. That's probably why your name is Kara, because you have such a caring heart. I'm sure you hear that all the time. And yeah, don't be a stranger. If there's anything ever we can help promote the work that you're doing, if it's just a quick update on the show, whatever it may be, whether it's through our social media, we're here to help support the cause. Um,
For
we're just
everybody, for
everybody.
everybody,
Hmm.
not just the one side or the other side, for
Hey,
everybody. This is a platform for everyone.
hey, and that invitation is always open for the other side. They know it. They just don't want to come back anymore because whatever. It's fine. Um, keep it humane.com. Keep it humane.com. Keep it humane on the socials. Like, share, rate the podcast. And as always, Bishop, we like to say,
Help people.
help animals. Keep
Good
you in.
night.